Hi guys.
All right.
The radio show did not work on the radio, so I have brought my interviewer to Facebook and we are live on Facebook. So hang on for me 1 second as I share this and she'll take over. I'm a bit winded, but hanging on with me. Over to you, Khadija.
All right. Thank you so much for setting this up, Kimmy. I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to all those who are tuning in. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Evolutionary Woman, where we are committed to highlighting and collaborating with amazing, amazing women who are up to big things in the world. I'm excited to be here to be interviewing my sister. First and foremost, she's my sister, but I want to share a little bit more about who she is with the audience. Kimmy Sagunle is a certified professional coach. She's listed as one of the 10 best coaches in Maryland, USA by Thumbtack.com. She's a contributor to the Huffington Post, a dating expert on older dating UK, and a multi-award winning author and international speaker. She's the founder and CEO of the nonprofit organization Love Not Hurt, an organization that promotes self-development, building healthier and stronger relationships while living on purpose. We're going to give you a little bit about her story. She writes and she speaks from a personal place and experience on relationships. And that's so important with relationship coaches and people who speak on dating to be able to know that they have that personal experience is phenomenal and amazing. So she speaks on relationships, healing, forgiveness, and purposeful living by moving from pain to purpose. Kimmy began her journey to become a life and relationship coach after her separation and divorce, which led to her soul searching. She was raped at age 17 and she kept it to herself and never healed from it. This led to her looking for love in the wrong places. After her painful divorce, after 15 years of marriage, she embarked on a journey to finding herself, and she connected to her spirituality while learning to view life from a different perspective. You can learn more about Kimmy Sagunle on her website at www.kimmysagunle.com. Sis, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Hey, thanks so much for interviewing me.
And
You've been a great supporter since day one, so I do appreciate you.
thank you. Thank you. So I want to start a little bit with the prior book before
Okay.
we get into this book,
Okay.
because you did write a book before this, and tell people the name of the book that you wrote before this one.
So I have two books before this one. I have Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality. I have Being Single, A State for the Fragile Heart. And then I have Beyond the Pain, which is the third one.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about love, sex, lies, and reality. Where were you where were you emotionally, spiritually, physically? Where were you at when you decided, hey, I needed to write this book? And why did you want to write that book?
So for me, writing Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality, it was during my healing process. And I was sharing some of the things that God was birthing into me in form of a book, but I did not really want to write the book. So I was sharing on my personal profile on Facebook some of those things. And I started to get inbox messages about, girl, you need to write a book. These are deep stuff that you're writing about. So I sat down, I said, God, you've already given me these books, because I wrote 4 books when I was healing, Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality, Being Single, Beyond the Pain, and my memoir.
Right.
All those 4 I wrote when I was healing. So for me, it was the nerve, the nerve and the introvert in me thinking, do I really want to write books? Do I really want to put my business out there? So I was sharing just with my friends. But when the confirmation came from what God had given me about the books, because I didn't have titles to the books, everything came during my writing. And I was like, God, what am I going to name these books? And all the names, all the title to the books came during my healing process. So I
Mhm.
was just hearing experts from here, there, all over Facebook. And when I got that confirmation from several friends that, yes, you're meant to write the books, again, this is what I share. When God gives you a message, when you're not sure about it, He will give you a confirmation through somebody else. But you get the message first. That
Right.
was how the book was birthed into being, and it's taking me places. It's won me awards, including one from Howard County, Maryland, for the best self-esteem building book. And it's still taking me internationally to speak, and I'm just grateful to God for the journey. That's all I can say about it.
Absolutely. No, because I always like when I do interviews to take people on a journey because I want people to get that they have gifts and they have talents as well, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of times we were just talking before we got on the broadcast about you think you're the only person. You think the
Yeah.
only person that's carrying a burden or carrying a load. And even though we live in a society that there's books and there's all of these things, somehow people still get this sense that they're alone in something and that they're the only person experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I know that for you, you had a traumatic event very early on in your teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading about it in the book, and you had a tremendous loss before that event happened. And so, as I was reading it, I got the sense that you hadn't really healed from that first thing that happened.
Yeah.
And so you went into this other situation or into this other environment that situation happened, I guess still raw and still not really fully healed from that. So I did want to talk about that. I know I just go with
I'm open. I
Okay,
believe in honesty and transparency, so I'm open to sharing because somebody out there may need it.
They may need it. Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about that? And then we're going to get more into the book, of course.
So, I was born in and raised in a preacher's home. My great grandfather was a preacher. My father was a preacher. My grandfather was a preacher, and there was polygamy in the family, which I talk about more in my memoir. And because there was polygamy in the family, I did not really connect with that. There was something hurting for me to see that, it's my mother's space was being shared, and I didn't really connect with that. And I ended up talking to a friend who was my confidant.
Yes.
And in the process of having a confidant who I trusted everything with, that was consoling me and helping me out, my confidant died during a beach party. And so for me, I couldn't have anyone to confide in. I kept to myself for a while. And then my girlfriends were like, you're not dating. This is high school. This is, so the pressure was there. And I yielded to the peer pressure. And that's what happens to us. We make the wrong choice to go with the flow of everybody's lifestyle. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to feel like you're not standing out. You don't want to feel like you're not in a clique. So I went into the pressure of, okay, I'll date this guy. And one thing that made me date him was girls were all after him.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy wasn't into the girls that were after him. And you know how it is as a teenager.
Yeah.
You want to prove the point that, the babes are after him, but he's not after them, but he wants to date me. Why not?
Right.
So I hopped into the process, but I wasn't ready to give myself in. And he had a birthday party that I was invited to. I went with a friend, but she didn't know what happened to me. And we went back home. She didn't even know. During that party, he invited me to go with him to his parents' room to get something, to pick up something from there for the party. And I just voluntarily walked behind him and said, okay, the door was shut. And I was like, why are you shutting the door? He's like, this is my parents' room. So I thought, you know what? Maybe he didn't want anybody else to come in. And as I bent over, his father was in the military then. As I bent over to look for what he said I should look for on behind the sofa,
Mm-hmm.
he had a gun in his hand. Mm-hmm. And my first instance was, oh my God, is it real? Is it toy? And the rape happened, and I couldn't talk about it. The rape happened. He gave me the the preventive pill so that I wouldn't get pregnant, and I had to take a cab back home. I had sleepless nights for days. I couldn't even talk to anyone about it. I will wake up, I will cry, I will go back to sleep. And I started looking, because I was still having that environment at home, the polygamous environment, I wanted to run away. And I talk more about this in my memoir. So I wanted to kind of look for an escape, and I was looking for somebody to love me. That got me into another relationship. I was in for about 8 years, and again, there was cheating. He cheated on me because I wasn't going to give myself up easily. And that led me again to meeting my ex-husband. And it wasn't about really my ex-husband not being there. It was me accepting situations that led me to be further broken. And this is one thing I want the audience to really connect with. When we don't really know what the solution is and we don't get help, we make irrational decisions based on our instability, our emotional instability, and that leads us again into a wrong relationship where we begin to plead and try to please the partner to get to love us for who we are, but we haven't loved ourselves yet. And as long as you don't love yourself yet, you're going to be giving in and getting hurt and looking for love in the wrong places.
And it's so interesting that you said that, because some of the things that I highlighted as I was going through the book was, you must learn to trust the process, be patient, and trust God even more than you have ever done.
Right? Before, yeah.
And that sounds so easy to do, but it's not, because, and what do you think that is? You talk about it in here, but I want people to get an idea of, sometimes we think we got it. I got it, right? I got this. He's a nice guy. He's nice to me. All the girls want him. And, we don't take the time to sit and be still and be present and ask ourselves those important questions, and consult with God, right? Because we think we can do it ourselves. Another thing that you mentioned in the book was, we sometimes do not know the depth of the choices we make in dire times. And there was also a point in the book where you talked about, you were getting hunches. Something was telling you don't go, or, stay home, or whatever it was, but you didn't listen to that. And, what I got from the book was listening to the voice of God, and how to listen for the voice of God.
Yeah.
And not be so quick to jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, because a lot of times when we do that, we're running from ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And you grew up in a certain cultural situation that I guess at that time you didn't understand what the heck's what's going on here. And, there was no one to explain it to you or for you to process it. So
actually, the funny thing was, when I was growing up, I grew up in, and this is what I really want the audience to connect with, that it's not about being from a poor background or from a rich background. Right. I grew up in a healthy background. So I had everything. I had everything I needed at my reach. I had the chauffeur carry me everywhere. But that day I was like, I don't want a chauffeur taking me. I wanted to take a cab. So I took a cab there, and I was like exposing myself, even though my intuition, which is the spirit of God, we call it intuition. My intuition said, don't go to this party. But because I wanted to be there to show myself as a girlfriend, I was like, I can't miss this one. I need to show those girls that are chasing him who I am and take my stand, because I've always been the confident girl, even though I'm an introvert. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to standing up for myself, I always do it. Right. But in that moment, I ignored my intuition, and I decided, you know what? Here I'm going to go for this party. I'm going to be decked up. I'm going to show up and be there and let them recognize this is the girlfriend of the day. But I was forgetting who I was in that moment because I was disconnected from my spiritual being, which is the intuition that speaks to us. I was disconnected. So I got carried away with my emotions. And that's what one other thing I talk about in Beyond the Pain. When you allow your emotions to overcome your ability to hear the Spirit of God, your intuition, you're going to make decisions that will leave you in pain. And that was the decision I made that resulted in me beginning to lose myself and be in a space of pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other thing I liked about the book, very much so, because a lot of times we read books and people may present a question, for you to think about, but you, after every chapter, you actually leave space for people to journal or to answer those questions that you ask. And I guess my next question is concerning why you decided to do that, number one. Because most people write, like, I'm writing a book, here's the lessons, here it is, bam. I never considered like, oh, maybe I should stop and have people journal and reflect on this information, right? Because we're always taking in information. Mm-hmm. But what are we taking it in to do with it after the fact? So what was for you the reasoning for doing that?
So my first book is the only book that I've written that doesn't have the journaling part of it. Mm-hmm. I'm a certified coach, and as a certified coach, I want people to be able to experience what I do with my clients when they read my book, so that if I'm not there to answer their questions, they can journal it down and then look at the back of the book and contact me with more. And it also gives them the ability not to only begin to ponder on why they need coaching, but begin to really reflect on why they're experiencing pain, and they can begin to connect the dots. Because you see, sometimes we read books, and once we put down the book, we don't remember what we read.
Right.
But my books are more geared towards you getting into the book, experiencing life from what you're reading, being able to journal within the book some of the things that come up for you based on what you're experiencing in life or what you may have experienced that you have buried underneath the rug, so that you can begin to uncover things and begin to heal. The healing process is very vital in every stage of our lives, and it's a lifetime process. I've documented that in the book as well. It's a lifetime process. But once you don't take the step to heal, and without journaling those answers, you may not really remember those things that you need to heal from in that moment. You may just heal from what is on the surface, but there's a lot underneath the rug that you need to deal with. And so reading the book and being able to journal at intervals help you go back way back as the very beginning when your initial pain started.
Yes. Amazing. And then the other thing that I loved is that you wove into your life story and the lessons that you got, parables from the Bible, right? So you begin in the beginning, right, with Adam and Eve, and what happened in the garden and what God did for Adam by bringing Eve to him, and what Eve and the serpent, their dialogue and their situation. So why do you feel it was important to parallel, if you will, your life with biblical stories or biblical principles?
So here's the deal. We're created as spiritual beings prior to being physical beings. Mm-hmm. We were existing before we actually were born. And I had to go back to that place to really capture that, because one thing you will realize when it comes to relationship that made me document that part is we as women, and I'm talking about women as in real women, right? We need to really eradicate the fact that we're strong, because we were brought out of the man. Mm-hmm. We did not just come to existence. We were brought out of the man right from when Adam was created. And we really have to recognize that the man, before we begin to chase him, if you look at the story of Adam, Adam had everything in his presence. He was working. He was fulfilled. All he needed was someone to compliment him and push him when needed, to support him.
Right.
And so when we don't recognize that as women, we begin to chase. And why I documented the part of the serpent is we women are the ones that are quick to talk. And so when we start to share our relationship issues outside with somebody coming with a story, they may not ask about your relationship, but they may utter something about their own relationship and say, do you know this happened? And it triggers you to begin to share your problems with a third party before you share it with your partner. And what happens when you begin to involve a third party in your relationship is you're actually setting your relationship ablaze without you knowing it. And so as a coach, I had to put that in there for people that are reading it. A man has to know himself. A man has to feel complete. A man has to have a job. A man has to be able to take care of himself. A man has to be feel that he's his own person, he's his own man before you coming as a woman to be the support. Adam had everything in the garden that he needed.
Right.
There was no Eve to cook for him. There was no Eve to clean. There was no Eve to supervise him when God created him. And that is what we as women need to recognize, that the man has to be able to do everything by himself. So when you come in, you complement. Because when you're single and you're beginning to give the wife role to a man, you're not going to help him recognize that he was created as a man. Right. You're going to help him recognize that your role is to play that part he could play by himself.
Oh, God.
And then when you come in, you may become the doormat and the slave, but you weren't created to be a slave. You were created to be a helpmate. But the culture teaches us otherwise. The culture, the tradition, the society teaches us the woman's supposed to clean, cook, do everything. But remember, Adam was able to do it by himself before the woman existed.
Wow.
And so that's part of what I coach women when they come to my programs. I encourage them. You need to learn this. It's not that it's the society that deems what women and men do. But if you go back to the basics, when God decided this was Adam, he put Adam in charge of everything and brought Eve to support him. So Adam has to be able to, your man has to be able to do everything before you surface. Wow. Because he was eating before he met you, right?
You know what? And it makes so much sense. And I don't want to get too much away from the book because we want people to definitely get that they need to face their pain and they need to get themselves back to returning to love. But you're bringing up a very good point about understanding roles. And, you know, we're living in a society now where everything's getting to be very fluid, right? Women are taking on men's characteristics. Men are taking on women's characteristics. And that's not to talk down on anybody, but there is this shift going on, and there's this disconnect that we're experiencing, men relating to women and women relating to men. And so I just appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a very, very important piece. And that lays the foundation, especially when you have a lot of women coming to you because they're trying to understand, like, why am I alone? Or why am I not, I'm in this relationship, but this is going wrong or that's going wrong. And I don't understand why. And so, what you just shared is like the blueprint of trying to understand. I think, number one, that a man has to know his purpose. He has to be able to know that he's a provider. And it's funny because today I was coaching with my coach. I have a relationship coach. And, she said, listen, they're providers and protectors. And they know that's what they are, period. So, I guess sometimes we as women, we come in with our stuff about what we think they should do or shouldn't do. And, we're getting it getting wires crossed.
And that's okay too, because one thing, the way we're created as maternal beings. We're nurturers as women.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a nurturer, you want to nurture the man, but you weren't designed to nurture him. That was why God gave him a mother. His mother was supposed to nurture him. But when you come in, you don't play the nurturer at the beginning. You don't play that nurturer at the beginning. You allow him to play the protector. Because if he cannot protect you, you will be nurturing him for somebody else, and you may not be the chosen one. Because we women, when we meet someone, we try to, in a period of a month, we're trying to decipher, is he the one? Yes, he's the one. No, he's not the one. And then, but you don't give him that space to prove who he is to you. Is he a man or is he a boy?
Mm-hmm.
And when you jump into a boy and try to make a boy a man, you can't make him see why he needs to be a man. He has to see it himself. He has to connect to that. He has to really recognize that there are certain things that he has to meet before you can surface to be the complement and the helpmate.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about the roles. I talk about the roles in my book, Being Single. I had to put that in the single book because we all need to recognize that we all have different roles.
Right.
But without you recognizing your role as a woman, you will jump the gun. I'm not saying it's not okay for you as a single woman to have your business and everything. Yes, you're building.
Of course.
But when the man surfaces, he has to be able to show you that, yes, you can complement him with what you bring to the table because your visions will be aligned.
Yes.
But without recognizing that your visions are not aligned, and without recognizing maybe he's broken and he's not in the place of healing yet, you will come in and take away part of his pain, because pain attracts pain. You may be in a place of pain. He may be in a place of pain. And when you come together and don't really talk about things that are more than just the romantic side of the relationship, you may begin to inflict yourself with pain because your emotions come into play.
I want to get into something. That's a lot to digest and chew on. And my prayer is that the people who listen back or look back at the replay, the sisters who are especially tuning in, please hone in on what my dear sister just shared in that moment. I want to talk about relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And not relationship in terms of us as male and female.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about our relationship with God. There's a quote I want to read from your book.
Okay.
You say, the closer you are to God, building your relationship deeper and deeper daily, the better and easier it will be for you to connect with love and eliminate fear. Let's talk about that. What that really means.
So fear is something that we connect to when we're disconnected from our true essence. Mm-hmm. Fear is based on those that we surround ourselves with, the things that we see, the things that we hear, the things that we process in our own thoughts. And the more you're not on that connection with your spiritual side, with God, the more fearful you become. Because the closer you are to God, the less fearful you become, because you're in the space of love.
Yes.
We were all born with love.
Yes.
We were all created with love. But when we disconnect from that love and that relationship, the foundation of all relationships, the relationship with God isn't there. Fear comes in. You fret about anything. You panic about every little situation. And you may not be able to receive the love and support of people that are actually sent your way, your purpose helpers. In that moment, somebody shows up and tries to correct you. And this is where I differentiate between correction and judgment. Because when you're in a place of pain, you're always thinking that you're going to be judged. When you haven't fully healed, you're going to think that you're going to be judged. So everybody standing in front of you, you think is bringing about judgment, and you're not able to process what they have to say to you. And it may be correction in that moment. But because you're disconnected from God, you're disconnected from being able to perceive the goodness, the love, what you do is you push them away.
Mm.
And when you push them away, you're not able to receive anything.
Mm.
And you would only attract the people who will try to massage your pain than tell you this is how to heal from the pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you attract the people that will massage and soothe you, then help you recognize the truth, what happens is you join the group. Your association will determine where you are in life, and your association will determine your growth.
The thing that came up, I promise you, the thing that was in the back of my mind as you were talking was Misery Loves Company.
Yes. I have a quote in the book about that as well. You know, misery loves company, your association. I'm trying to find out where it is. You know, misery loves company. We associate with people based on where we are in life. And the more you associate with people that don't recognize who they are and don't really have a solid relationship with God that can help you awaken yourself and bring you to that level of consciousness, you just get lost in the process.
Right. Well, I want to jump ahead a little bit because we are running down. We're running out of time.
Okay.
And I want to jump to looking back in the past, which is also going to lead us into understanding the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
So, another place you talk about that in your book is you say you cannot keep looking back. And interestingly enough, you tell the story of Lot's wife, right? Because she looked back, and what happened when she looked back? She turned into the pillar of salt, right? So you say you cannot keep looking back because God's purpose for your life does not exist in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. All right, so we need to talk about that.
So why I wrote that in is when I was healing, that was part of what came when I was journaling what God was putting me through during my healing process. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when we look back on the past things that have happened to us, we become stagnant. But we don't consciously recognize that we don't consciously realize that we're stagnant. What happens in that moment is we begin to dwell on the pain. Mm-hmm. And we forget that every day is brand new. And when you look back, what you become is numb to yourself, numb to your pain, numb to everything that is occurring in the present. But you're focusing on the past that doesn't hold any blessing or any future for you. And you become a pillar of salt. Mm-hmm. And there's no goodness in what is a pillar of salt because you're going to have to dissolve. Yeah. You're going to have to dissolve. You're going to have to dissolve mm-hmm. that pillar of salt for you to get yourself become loose again. For you to really realign and reconnect with your true essence, that pillar of salt has to be dissolved. And that's when God comes in to shape, break, and mold us into recognizing who we were truly created to be and to connect with the love that we are.
Mm. Mm. I just want to be present to that. I'm sorry. Okay, so which leads me into the last couple of things that I want to talk about, which is very important because, right, we talked about the pain. We talked about the things that happen when you disconnect from God. We talked about not trusting ourselves, not trusting that inner voice that is God speaking to us. Mm-hmm. When we second guess that and what can happen in our lives when that happens, right?
Yeah.
You talk about the healing process in 3 stages.
Yes.
About the wait, I got them here. Let me read them. I want to read them because I want to touch on each one of these really briefly. The shredding, the ringing, and
yes.
The shredding, the ringing, and the
release. Yes.
I think about cheese, a washcloth, and the releasing of doves. I don't know why. That's what came to my mind. But talk about those.
And that part is those 3 things that you just mentioned are going to help you with your healing process.
So the shredding process. Why did you name it the shredding process? And what is that process about?
So the shredding process is when you have to go to the on that rug that you've buried everything underneath, and you have to pick up that rug. And in the process of picking up that rug, you're shredded into pieces because you become broken.
Mm-hmm.
The main moment in your life when you're really broken. You weren't broken by the pain, but you were broken when you lift up the rug and recognize how much you've buried your life. Not anybody else that you were burying, but you were burying yourself.
Right.
And you begin to shred in pain and in tears because you're recognizing how much you put your life on hold by holding on to the pain. And at that moment, you're shredded into pieces. You just want to sit down and cry. And I always say to my clients jokingly, get the bucket. Because you're really going to cry. When I was going through it and I was writing these things, my next door neighbor in my apartment used to knock on my door. She could hear me laugh. She could hear me cry. She could hear me scream. And she was always like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm going through the healing process and no one can understand what I'm going through but me. So if you hear me, just pray for me. Don't come knock on the door because you're actually distracting me from what is going on in my process in that moment. Right. And you have to really recognize that it's the beginning of you becoming free. It requires work.
It's powerful too because a lot of people don't want to. The thought of quote unquote falling apart, I think, frightens many people because they're afraid of their emotions. So it just sounds to me like when you were going through that process, you weren't afraid to be 1 minute crying, the next minute laughing, or, I imagine maybe just talking to God like, really, what is this all about? Or whatever your process was, but like being willing to go up and down, because that's just life. Right? That's not.
And one thing I want the audience to really pick from this is when you're ready to heal, you have to make a choice. Healing is a choice. Making that choice is also a choice. Choosing to remain in pain is a choice. But when you're ready to make that choice and you do decide to get a coach to support you, you have to get out of your own way to be able to receive the truth.
Right.
The shredding process is where some of us want to give up because we've been so numb to ourselves and we're so ashamed to even lift up that rug and look at ourselves and say, you know what? I have to deal with it. But when you don't deal with it, it shows up in every area of your life. And that's why before we came on the show, you had put on on your profile page that, you know what? Everybody needs a coach. You can't do it all by yourself. And that's one thing I want people to recognize. I never thought about me needing a coach until I got to the point where I needed to heal. And I was going through it. My coaches were helping me. I had 3 coaches. 2 of them were from the Women's Crisis Center. The other one I got on my own. And they had to really sit me down. If I listened to Coach 1 say something and I did not want to listen to her because that's the way we are.
Yes.
I don't want to hear it in this moment. Please keep it to yourself.
Right.
I break my session short by saying, I have a headache. I just need to take a break. It was me running away from the truth.
Right.
So I'll go over to Coach 2 and pick up the phone and I'll hear the same thing. And I'll go over to Coach 3 in person and she'll slap me awake. And I had to begin to deal with my truth because I couldn't run away. Every time it's not that we're really bored about something. And that's one thing I want everyone to pick up on today. It's not that we're really bored about something. When you're hearing the truth and you decide to make that U-turn, like, I don't need to hear this now. You're running from yourself. And the further you run from yourself, the more the pain will come. And the more numb you'll become to yourself. That's just the reality of life.
Real. That's real. That's real. So let's move to the ringing stage, right? So once we go through the shredding, now we get to the ringing.
So the ringing stage is part of where, and I have to pick my book again because this was written in 2014 and I can't really remember most of it. So the ringing stage is where you get emotional. That's that's when you begin to gain the awareness, the conscious awareness of some of the things that you have done. And you begin to look at yourself like,
really? I did.
really?
Right.
So what I encourage during the ringing stage is that you begin to journal things down, because that will help you when you eventually get a coach. Because most of the time when we go to coaches, things don't show up. But if you journal them down, when you get to the coach, it makes it easier for you to actually begin to heal. And for me, the ringing stage was where I was like, God, really? And I would laugh. Like, I would actually journal some things that I did not, some personal things I did not put in the book, because those were my own aha moments of.
How to keep some stories to yourself. Yeah.
Really? Did you have to plead to be in that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Did you have to put yourself on the pedestal and be tossed back and forth? And so the ringing stage is just where your awareness begins to come to life, and you're like, okay, did I do that? What was I thinking when I did that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I must have been really stupid. And you can laugh it off. You can actually laugh it off and say, you know what? I'm awakening to who I am now. So it's a good part of the ringing process.
Right. You know what I love too? I love that as you're taking us through each of these stages, it's not heavy,
No, we make it heavy.
Heavy. You can look at yourself and say, Lord, thank you for being, thank you for being in that situation, and thank you for closing that door or whatever it is. And, just not taking yourself so serious. I love that. I love how you're taking us through each of those stages. And let's go through this final stage, which is the releasing stage.
So the release stage is when you begin to understand that God's arms are always open to you, but you were the one that were running in the other direction because you couldn't hear his voice. You could hear everybody else louder than God, and you were just running in the other direction. And it's more of you coming to God and saying, God, I made, like the prodigal son did. Yes. I made a fool of myself, Lord. So here I am back at square one with you. What is the plan that you had for me? I'm ready to connect with it now. And you begin to release as you heal. Part of the release process, which I also documented in in Being Single, is you recognizing that you may not be able to connect to some of those people that hurt you, but you have to be ready to release them by forgiveness. Yes. Because forgiveness is for you. Without you going through the releasing stage of the healing process, you're going to hold on a bit of the pain that may show up if you get into a relationship in 6 months' time and you think, here comes that pain again. But once you completely release the pain and let it go and let God, and you say, I'm done with this pain. When you're completely healed, no one can hurt you because you're now consciously aware of who you are. And when pain shows up at your doorstep, you're like, being there, done that, not going there again.
Right. I just want to read a little excerpt from people, and I thank you so much for breaking down those 3 stages, because I really felt like they were really important, because a lot of times you hear people talk about forgiveness, and then you got to forgive. Okay, how do I do that? What does that look like? So, that's why I wanted to talk about it, and I think it's really important. And I thank you and I honor you for, sharing and teaching people how it's done and what it looks like and what it's going to feel like, But I wanted to read this little last piece, which it says, the budding flower starts with a closed bud and gradually opens up while releasing its petals and exposing its beauty to the world. As you begin to heal, you gradually open up and become free of hurt, resentment, pain, anger, and bitterness. The heaviness is lifted from your shoulders. You no longer become anxious or overwhelmed with worry. You regain your strength and connect with peace. You begin to understand how forgiveness liberates you. You learn how to fully embrace God's mercy and grace daily. And I'm going to stop right there. Stop right there. Give people something to reflect on. But I just want to thank you so much for being here. I want you to share some parting words with the family that's here joining us. Thank you to everyone who has been jumping on with us. We hope that what we have shared with you all today um, inspires you in some way to take action in your life. But sis, I want you to leave everybody with some important words, and also tell people how they can get the book.
Okay, so departing words to begin. Let me encourage you. No matter what you're going through, your mess is a message for someone out there. It's not only that you went through that mess for your own sake. This is why I love to coach people. Coaching with me is fun when you come in. They're based on the things that I've experienced and I've also seen in other clients. It's not that you're sitting with me. We're gonna have fun because the healing process that we just went through is the fun part that I do with you. So I want to encourage you, no matter what you're going through, you always have to get help. We can't do it all by myself. I had to wait from age 17 until age 41. Think about the gap before I started to get help. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of my own time wasted that God had given me to really get over whatever it was. But I was the one that held on to the pain. I was the one that thought, you know what? I don't want anyone to know about my shame, but my shame is actually meant to save someone. My shame is meant to save someone. The same way yours is, your mess is meant to be a message to someone. Your test is meant to be a testimony for someone to connect to. But if we hold on in that space of not moving beyond the pain, we remain in a place of hurt. Hurting ourselves is a choice that we make because we choose not to heal. The person who may hurt you is long gone. They only came to show you the part of you, like I shared this morning, the part of you did not recognize about you yet. And you have to keep finding yourself because life is about discovering yourself. That's the journey, and the processes in between that help us connect to who we really are so that we can better be in a space of love to attract the love that we truly deserve. Not everyone is meant to be the partner for you. But without recognizing that, you're going to invite different people to take a piece of you away. And that makes you disconnect from who you were really created to be. But if you're patient enough to understand the process, to heal from the pain, to move beyond the pain, you're able to connect to the love that you are, because the love that you are is a reflection of the love that you need in your life.
Say that one more time.
Go ahead.
No, say that one more time. That last part, that last line.
The love that you are is the love that you need to connect to yourself. Okay. The love that you are is the love that you attract, because we attract people based on where we are. So if you're attracting less than your worth, it's because you haven't recognized your worth yet.
Right.
But for you to recognize your worth, you have to move beyond the pain.
Yes. Good stuff. And
so if you guys want to connect with me, feel free, email me at coaching@kemishogunle.com. And you can also find my information on my website. And the book can also be purchased on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's on Nook. It's on iBooks. It's on my website. When you order on my website, you actually get an autographed copy of it. So some of the profit from the books go to my nonprofit. I help people in underserved areas, places like Baltimore, where people are living in rundown homes and they don't know what relationship is all about, and they don't know how to improve on themselves. I go into places like that with other organizations. We feed them, we clothe them, we educate them, and I also do it online as well for some people who come across through the nonprofit. We have programs online that we help them with. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you're reading the book and you need support, or if you need support and you're watching this, feel free to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to help you move forward in your journey in life and moving beyond the pain.
Thank you so much, sis, for everything. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony and your message from what you experienced with the world. It's an honor and a pleasure to be acquainted and to know you. And every time you talk, I'm just like, wow, she's so amazing. Listen to her. She's just so powerful. It's just a beautiful thing to see, sis. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for the platform. And we'll be in touch. Everyone, please get in touch with Kimmy. And thank you again for being here, sis.
Thank you so much. You have a great evening. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. And again, feel free to reach out to me at any time on Facebook. If you also want to connect with me on Skype, it's Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality. That's my Skype ID. And I'll be more than happy to offer you a complimentary session to help you get started. Thank you so much again, Khadija. You've been awesome.
All right, sis.
Bye-bye.